Maya's mind raced as she stood there, her hands gripping the edges of her skirt tightly. She could feel the heat rising in her cheeks, and her heart was pounding like a drum. The laughter from Officers Greg and Ryan echoed around her, bouncing off the walls of the narrow alleyway. It felt sharp, cutting through the air and slicing into her dignity. For a moment she thought about walking away, just turning around and leaving these two men to their cruel amusement. But something inside her refused to let that happen. "This isn't right," Maya whispered to herself under her breath. Then, louder, with more force, she said it again. "This isn't right." Her voice cracked slightly, but it carried strength, a strength born out of years of enduring disrespect, inequality, and injustice. Greg finally managed to compose himself, enough to look at her, though his smirk remained firmly in place. "Relax," he said dismissively, waving a hand as if swatting away her anger like an annoying fly. "It was just a joke. No harm done." "No harm?" Maya repeated, incredulous. Her eyes narrowed as she stared at him, refusing to back down despite the intimidating uniforms they wore. "You think pulling up my skirt without permission is harmless? You think humiliating someone because you can get away with it is funny?" Ryan chimed in, trying to play peacemaker while still snickering behind his partner's back. "Come on, lady, don't take it so seriously. We're just having a little fun." "Fun?" Maya snapped, her voice rising now. "Do you even realize how this feels? Do you know what it's like to be treated like you're nothing? Like your body doesn't belong to you?" Her words hung heavy in the air for a brief second, but neither officer seemed fazed. Instead, they exchanged glances, clearly amused by her reaction. To them, this was all part of the game. A power dynamic where they held all the cards and she was just another pawn. They didn't see Maya as a person. They saw her as someone weaker, someone easy to push around. And that realization ignited a fire within her. Without hesitation, Maya made a decision, one that would change everything. Slowly, deliberately, she reached down and grabbed the hem of her yellow sundress. With a deep breath, she lifted it high, above her waist, exposing not only her underwear but also her unwavering defiance. The officers froze instantly, their smirks vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Their laughter died in their throats, replaced by stunned silence. "There!" Maya shouted, her voice ringing out loud and clear. "If you wanted a show, here it is. Is this what you were looking for? Go ahead, laugh some more." For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic from the nearby main road. Greg and Ryan looked at each other, their faces flushed with embarrassment. They hadn't expected this, not in the slightest. In their minds, Maya was supposed to shrink away, maybe cry or yell, but ultimately retreat. This bold move caught them completely off guard, but Maya wasn't finished yet. She pulled out her phone, holding it up so the camera faced the officers. "Let me tell you something," she began, speaking directly into the device as she recorded. "These so-called protectors of the law think it's okay to disrespect women. They think it's okay to treat us like objects, like we don't matter. But guess what? I'm done being silent." As she spoke, her voice grew stronger, steadier. Every word carried conviction, every sentence brimming with emotion. Passers-by started to notice the commotion. A few curious pedestrians stopped to watch, drawn in by the intensity of the scene unfolding before them. One woman, clutching her grocery bags, pulled out her own phone and began recording the interaction. Another man stepped closer, visibly outraged by what he saw. Within minutes, word spread like wildfire. Someone live-streamed the incident on social media, capturing Maya's raw determination and the officer's obvious discomfort. Comments flooded in almost immediately. "What is wrong with these cops? She's amazing. Stand strong. Sister?" The video went viral faster than anyone could have anticipated, reaching thousands of viewers across the country. Meanwhile, Greg and Ryan scrambled to regain control of the situation. Ryan tried to intervene, stammering awkwardly as he addressed Maya. "Look, ma'am, we didn't mean anything by it. Honest. Let's just calm down, okay?" "Calm down?" Maya shot back, her tone razor sharp. "You humiliated me and now you expect me to calm down? No. Not today. Greg, sensing the gravity of the moment, attempted to usher his partner away. Forget it, he muttered under his breath. We're leaving. But Maya wasn't about to let them escape so easily. She followed them as they backed away, keeping her phone trained on them the entire time. You can run, she called after them, but you can't hide from accountability. People are watching. Everyone is watching. And she was right. By now, a small crowd had gathered in the alleyway, murmuring among themselves as they witnessed the confrontation. Some cheered Maya on, clapping and shouting words of encouragement. Others shook their heads in disbelief at the officer's behavior. The atmosphere crackled with tension, a mix of anger, admiration, and anticipation. As Greg and Ryan disappeared into the shadows, retreating hastily to their patrol car, Maya lowered her phone and took a deep breath. Her legs felt weak, and her hands trembled slightly, but she stood tall nonetheless. She had faced humiliation head-on and turned it into a moment of empowerment. What started as a cruel prank had become a statement, a declaration that she wouldn't tolerate such treatment anymore. The crowd lingered for a few moments longer, buzzing with conversation. Several people approached Maya, offering support and praise. One elderly woman gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, she said softly. You've given us hope. Maya nodded, managing a small smile despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. She knew she had done the right thing, but she also understood that this was only the beginning. There would be consequences for both her and the officers involved, but for now she allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. Against all odds, she had taken a stand, and the world was watching. In a quiet little town nestled in the southern part of the United States, life moved at its own unhurried pace. The streets were lined with modest houses, and the air carried the faint scent of blooming flowers during springtime. But beneath this seemingly peaceful exterior lay simmering tensions that had been building for years. These tensions weren't between neighbors or families. They were between the people of the town and those who wore badges. Among the residents was Maya Johnson, a 34-year-old single mother whose life revolved around her two children, her job as a cashier at the local grocery store, and her growing passion for speaking out against injustice. Maya wasn't someone who sought attention. She simply believed in fairness. She had seen too many instances where members of her community, especially women and minorities, were treated unfairly by law enforcement officers. And so whenever she got the chance, Maya attended city council meetings, voicing her concerns about police behavior and urging officials to take action. Maya's outspokenness made her stand out in the small town. Some people admired her courage, while others thought she was stirring up trouble. But Maya didn't care what anyone said. To her, staying silent would mean accepting things as they were, and that was something she couldn't do. One warm summer evening, after finishing her shift at the grocery store, Maya began her walk home. Her yellow sundress fluttered gently in the breeze as she strolled along the familiar streets. It had been a long day, and all Maya wanted was to get back to her cozy apartment, spend time with her kids, and relax. Little did she know that this ordinary evening would turn into one of the most unforgettable nights of her life. As Maya passed through a dimly lit alleyway, a shortcut she often used to avoid the busier main roads, she heard faint sounds coming from behind her. At first she dismissed them, thinking it might just be the wind rustling through the trees or stray cats rummaging through trash bins. But then she noticed two figures approaching her. They were wearing uniforms and badges. Officers Greg and Ryan, two rookie cops known for their reckless antics and lack of respect for the community, had spotted Maya walking alone. The two officers had earned quite a reputation in the neighborhood. Instead of focusing on protecting and serving, they often acted like bullies, targeting vulnerable individuals for their amusement. Their favorite pastime? Making fun of people under the guise of keeping things light. Whether it was mocking someone's appearance, cracking jokes at their expense, or pulling harmless but humiliating pranks, these officers thrived on belittling others. And tonight, Maya happened to catch their eye. Greg nudged Ryan with a mischievous grin. Hey, check out her dress, he whispered, nodding toward Maya. Bright yellow, easy to spot even in the dark. Ryan chuckled softly, his eyes narrowing as he assessed Maya from head to toe. Yeah, real flashy. Bet she thinks she's some kind of celebrity. Without giving it another thought, the two men quickened their pace until they were close enough to Maya. For a brief moment, Maya glanced over her shoulder, sensing their presence. When she saw the officers, she slowed down slightly, unsure of why they were following her. Was there something wrong? Had she unknowingly broken a rule? But instead of addressing her politely or explaining their reason for being there, Greg decided to pull a prank. As Maya continued walking, completely unaware of what was about to happen, Greg reached out and playfully tugged at the back of her skirt, lifting it just enough to reveal her underwear before letting go. Both officers burst into uncontrollable laughter, finding humor in their juvenile act. For Maya, time seemed to freeze. 1 second she was lost in her thoughts, dreaming of the comfort of her home, and the next, she felt the sudden draft and realized what had happened. Humiliation washed over her like a tidal wave. Her cheeks burned red, and her heart pounded furiously in her chest. She stopped in her tracks, turning around slowly to face the officers. Her voice trembled with a mix of shock and anger. What are you doing?" she demanded, clutching the edges of her skirt tightly to prevent any further embarrassment. "Is this supposed to be funny?" Instead of apologizing or showing remorse, Greg and Ryan laughed even harder, doubling over as if they'd just witnessed the funniest thing in the world. Their laughter echoed through the narrow alleyway, bouncing off the walls and filling the air with mockery. To them, this was nothing more than a harmless joke, a way to pass the time during a boring patrol shift. But to Maya, it was an attack on her dignity, a reminder of how powerless she felt in the face of authority. Maya stood there frozen in disbelief. How could these men, sworn to protect and serve, treat her with such disrespect? Didn't they understand the weight of their actions? Or were they simply too blinded by their arrogance to see the harm they were causing? As the laughter continued, something inside Maya shifted. The initial wave of humiliation gave way to a surge of determination. She wasn't going to let them win. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been mistreated by those in power. And Maya knew exactly how to respond. The weeks following the viral incident saw Maya's story evolve from a single moment of defiance into a movement that resonated far beyond her small town. The public outcry over officers Greg and Ryan's actions had reached a fever pitch, and the pressure on local authorities to act became impossible to ignore. For Maya, this period was both empowering and challenging, a delicate balance between stepping into her role as an advocate for justice and navigating the personal toll of being thrust into the national spotlight. As the investigation into the UAE officers' behavior progressed, details began to emerge that painted a clearer picture of their misconduct. Internal records revealed a pattern of reckless behavior, including multiple complaints filed against them by residents who claimed they were subjected to harassment or humiliation during routine encounters. Yet until now, these complaints had been brushed aside or dismissed without consequence. This revelation only fueled the anger of the community, many of whom felt betrayed by a system that seemed designed to protect those in power rather than serve the people. In response to mounting criticism, the police department announced a series of reforms aimed at addressing systemic issues within its ranks. These included mandatory sensitivity training for all officers, stricter guidelines regarding appropriate conduct with civilians, and the implementation of body cameras to ensure transparency. While some viewed these measures as a step in the right direction, others argued that they didn't go far enough. Activists demanded more accountability, calling for independent oversight committees and harsher penalties for officers found guilty of misconduct. Maya herself played a pivotal role in shaping the conversation around reform. She attended city council meetings, spoke at rallies, and collaborated with legal experts to draft proposals for policy changes. Her involvement earned her respect among activists and community leaders, but it also made her a target for criticism. Some accused her of exploiting the situation for personal gain, while others questioned whether she truly understood the complexities of law enforcement. Despite the backlash, Maya remained steadfast, reminding herself why she had chosen to speak out in the first place. "I'm not doing this for fame or recognition," she said during one particularly heated debate at a town hall meeting. "I'm doing it because I believe in fairness. I believe that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity regardless of who they are or where they come from. And if sharing my experience helps even one person feel less alone, then it's worth every challenge." Her words struck a chord with many attendees, earning applause and nods of agreement, but there were still skeptics in the room, people who clung to outdated beliefs about authority and hierarchy. One man stood up and challenged her directly, asking how she expected to change a system that had been in place for decades. Instead of becoming defensive, Maya responded with calm determination. "Change starts with holding people accountable," she explained. "It starts with saying no when something is wrong, even if it feels uncomfortable. If we keep accepting bad behavior, nothing will ever improve. But if we demand better, if we refuse to settle for anything less than justice, then change becomes possible." Her answer silenced the doubters, at least temporarily. It was clear that Maya wasn't just speaking from emotion. She had thought deeply about the issues at hand and was committed to finding solutions. This thoughtful approach endeared her to supporters and earned her credibility as a voice for meaningful reform. Behind the scenes, however, Maya faced significant challenges. The stress of constant media attention took a toll on her mental health. Every day brought new messages, some supportive, others hateful, and balancing her responsibilities as a mother with her growing role as an activist proved exhausting. There were moments when she questioned whether she could continue, whether the fight was too big for her to handle. But every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself of the faces she had seen at rallies and workshops. The women, children, and families who looked to her for inspiration. They gave her strength when hers wavered. One particularly difficult moment came when someone leaked private information about Maya online, including her home address and phone number. This act of doxing left her feeling vulnerable and unsafe, forcing her to take extra precautions to protect herself and her children. Friends and neighbors rallied around her, offering support and standing guard outside her apartment building. Local businesses posted signs declaring their solidarity, turning what could have been a terrifying experience into a testament to the power of community. Despite these hardships, Maya refused to let fear dictate her actions. She continued to use her platform to raise awareness about broader issues affecting marginalized communities. She partnered with organizations focused on criminal justice reform, education equity, and economic empowerment, leveraging her newfound visibility to bring attention to causes she cared about deeply. Through these collaborations, she learned valuable lessons about leadership, teamwork, and resilience. One of the most impactful projects Maya undertook was creating a mentorship program for young women in her neighborhood. The initiative paired participants with mentors who helped them develop skills in advocacy, communication, and self-confidence. Workshops covered topics ranging from public speaking to conflict resolution, equipping young women with tools to navigate challenges they might face in their own lives. Maya often led sessions herself, sharing her story and encouraging participants to embrace their voices. "Don't wait for permission to stand up for yourself," she told the group during one session. "You don't need anyone else's approval to know your worth. Trust yourself and trust that you're stronger than you think." The program quickly gained popularity, attracting participants from neighboring towns and cities. Many credited Maya with helping them find courage they didn't realize they had. One participant, a shy teenager named Jasmine, wrote a heartfelt letter thanking Maya for inspiring her to report bullying at school, a decision that ultimately led to positive changes in the institution's policies. As months passed, the investigation into officers Greg and Ryan finally reached its conclusion. Both men were fired from the police force and charged with misconduct, though some critics argued that the punishment should have been harsher. Nevertheless, the outcome marked a rare victory for accountability, sending a strong message that such behavior would no longer be tolerated. For Maya, the verdict brought mixed emotions. On one hand, she felt vindicated knowing that her actions had led to tangible consequences. On the other hand, she recognized that true justice required more than punishing individuals. It required transforming systems that allowed abuse of power to persist in the first place. With this understanding, she vowed to keep pushing for lasting change. Looking back on everything that had happened, Maya realized how much she had grown since that fateful night in the alleyway. What began as a humiliating encounter had transformed into a journey of self-discovery and purpose. She had discovered inner reserves of strength she never knew existed, and forged connections with people who shared her vision for a better world. Most importantly, she had shown countless others that standing up for what's right isn't easy, but it's always worth it. Though the road ahead promised more obstacles, Maya walked it with hope in her heart. She knew the fight for justice wouldn't end anytime soon, but she also knew that progress was possible. One brave act, one bold voice, and one united community at a time. The legacy of Maya Johnson's bold stand against injustice continued to grow long after the dust settled on the incident with officers Greg and Ryan. What started as a single moment of defiance had transformed into a movement that inspired change, not only in her small town but across the nation. For Maya, this wasn't just about holding two officers accountable. It was about sparking conversations, challenging systems, and empowering others to take action in their own lives. In the months following the verdict, Maya became a household name. Her story appeared in newspapers, magazines, and television interviews, reaching audiences far beyond what she could have imagined. People from all walks of life reached out to share how her courage had touched them. Some wrote letters thanking her for giving them the strength to speak up about their own experiences with discrimination or abuse. Others sent messages saying they finally felt seen and heard because of her willingness to shine a light on issues often swept under the rug. Maya's newfound fame came with its challenges, of course. She faced criticism from skeptics who accused her of seeking attention or overreacting to an isolated prank. Online trolls bombarded her social media accounts with hateful comments, questioning everything from her motives to her parenting skills. But Maya refused to let negativity derail her mission. Instead, she used these moments as opportunities to remind herself, and others, that standing up for justice often means enduring resistance. "I knew when I decided to fight back that it wouldn't be easy," she said during one interview. "But I also knew that staying silent would mean accepting things as they are. And I refuse to live in a world where people think it's okay to treat others with disrespect." Her resilience earned her even more admiration, solidifying her status as a symbol of empowerment. Schools invited her to give motivational speeches to students, urging young people to find their voices and use them for good. Community centers held events honoring her contributions to advocacy work, celebrating her as a local hero. Even strangers approached her in public places, grocery stores, parks, coffee shops, to express gratitude for inspiring them to believe in the possibility of change. Inspired by the impact of her actions, Maya decided to dedicate herself fully to activism. She enrolled in college, pursuing a degree in criminal justice reform, so she could better understand the systemic issues at play and propose meaningful solutions. Balancing schoolwork, parenting, and advocacy work wasn't easy, but Maya thrived on the challenge. Every late night spent studying, every early morning juggling responsibilities, reminded her why she was doing this: for her children, for her community, and for future generations. As part of her studies, Maya collaborated with professors and fellow students to research patterns of police misconduct and develop strategies for preventing similar incidents in the future. Together, they published papers and presented findings at conferences, bringing academic rigor to grassroots efforts already underway. Their work caught the attention of policymakers, leading to invitations for Maya to testify before legislative committees and contribute to discussions about law enforcement accountability. One of Maya's proudest achievements was founding a nonprofit organization called Rise Together. The group focused on supporting victims of police brutality and advocating for reforms within the criminal justice system. Through Rise Together, Maya organized workshops, provided resources for legal assistance, and created safe spaces for survivors to share their stories without fear of judgment. The organization quickly gained traction, attracting volunteers and donors eager to support its mission. Perhaps the most impactful initiative launched by Rise Together was a mentorship program aimed at empowering women and girls. Drawing from her own experiences, Maya designed the program to teach participants essential skills like self-advocacy, conflict resolution, and public speaking. Each session included interactive activities, guest speakers, and open dialogues, fostering a sense of camaraderie among attendees. Many participants credited the program with helping them overcome personal obstacles and build confidence in their abilities. One graduate of the program, a young woman named Lisa, shared her story during a fundraising event hosted by Rise Together. "Before I joined, I didn't think my voice mattered," Lisa said, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I thought I had to stay quiet and accept whatever happened to me. But Maya taught me that speaking up isn't selfish, it's necessary. Now, I'm applying for scholarships, volunteering in my community, and dreaming bigger than ever before." Stories like Lisa's reinforced Maya's belief in the power of collective action. Change wasn't something that happened overnight. It required patience, persistence, and unity. By working together, individuals could create ripples that turned into waves, shaping a brighter future for everyone. Though Maya's journey had been filled with triumphs, it hadn't been without heartache. There were days when the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, when the scars of the past threatened to resurface. On those days, Maya leaned on her support system, her children, her friends, and the countless strangers-turned allies who believed in her vision. They reminded her that she wasn't alone, that her efforts were making a difference. Looking back on everything she had accomplished, Maya reflected on how much she had grown since that fateful night in the alleyway. Back then, she had simply wanted to get home safely, to escape the humiliation inflicted upon her by two reckless officers. Today, she stood as a beacon of hope, proving that even in our darkest moments, we possess the strength to rise above adversity. Her story became a testament to the idea that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. Maya wasn't a politician, a celebrity, or someone born into privilege. She was a single mother working long hours at a grocery store, trying her best to provide for her family. Yet, when faced with injustice, she chose to act, not because she sought recognition, but because she believed in fairness and dignity for all. Years later, Maya's influence continued to resonate. The reforms implemented in her town served as a model for other cities grappling with similar issues. Activists around the country cited her case as proof that accountability was possible, even in the face of deeply entrenched systems. Young people looked to her as a role model, drawing inspiration from her unwavering determination and refusal to back down. For Maya, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was knowing that she had made a difference. She had shown the world that courage doesn't require perfection. It requires action. That vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. And that standing up for yourself isn't just about reclaiming your dignity. It's about paving the way for others to do the same. As she sat on her porch one evening, watching her children play in the fading sunlight, Maya allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. Life wasn't perfect. There were still battles to fight, injustices to address, and dreams yet to fulfill. But for now, she felt peace. Peace in knowing that she had done her part to make the world a little kinder, a little fairer, and a lot more hopeful. And deep down, she knew the fight wasn't hers alone. It belonged to everyone who dared to believe in the possibility of change. The aftermath of Maya's confrontation with officers Greg and Ryan rippled through the small town like a shockwave. What had started as a seemingly isolated incident quickly spiraled into something much bigger, a catalyst for change that no one could have predicted. The video of Maya's bold response went viral overnight, sparking conversations far beyond the confines of her quiet neighborhood. People from all walks of life tuned in, sharing their thoughts, opinions, and emotions about what they had witnessed. For Maya, the days following the incident were a whirlwind of activity. She woke up the next morning to find her phone flooded with notifications, messages of support, interview requests from journalists, and even invitations to speak at community events. At first, she felt overwhelmed. This kind of attention was entirely new to her. As a single mother working long hours at the grocery store, Maya had always lived a relatively low-profile life.
Now, suddenly, she found herself thrust into the spotlight, her name trending on social media platforms across the country. But amidst the chaos, Maya remained grounded. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about standing up for everyone
Who had ever been treated unfairly by those in positions of power. So instead of shying away, she embraced the opportunity to amplify her voice. With the help of a local activist group, Maya organized a press conference to address the public directly. Standing before a crowd of reporters and supporters, she recounted the events of that night, holding nothing back. "I didn't ask for this," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "No one deserves to be humiliated or disrespected, especially not by the very people who are supposed to protect us. But when it happened to me, I realized I had two choices: stay silent or fight back. And I chose to fight." Her words resonated deeply with those listening, not just because of their honesty, but also because of the courage behind them. Maya wasn't speaking as someone untouchable or invincible. She was speaking as an ordinary person who had decided to take extraordinary action. That made her relatable, inspiring countless others to reflect on their own experiences with injustice. As news outlets picked up the story, pressure mounted on the police department to respond. Initially, officials tried to downplay the incident, issuing vague statements about conduct unbecoming and promising internal investigations. But public outrage refused to die down. Protesters gathered outside the police station, holding signs that read, "Justice for Maya and accountability now." Voices echoed through the streets, demanding answers and reforms. Local activists seized the momentum, organizing marches and rallies to keep the issue front and center. Maya joined them whenever she could, marching alongside neighbors, friends, and strangers united by a shared desire for change. Together, they called for stricter accountability measures within the police force, including body cameras for all officers and mandatory sensitivity training. They also pushed for greater transparency in how complaints against law enforcement were handled. Meanwhile, Maya faced personal challenges as well. While many celebrated her bravery, others criticized her decision to expose herself during the confrontation. Some online trolls accused her of seeking attention or overreacting to a harmless prank. Others dismissed her entirely, suggesting that she was exaggerating the severity of the situation. These comments stung, but Maya refused to let them break her spirit. "I expected backlash," she admitted during one interview. "There will always be people who try to silence you, who tell you that you're making too big a deal out of nothing. But here's the thing. If we don't speak up, nothing changes. If I hadn't stood my ground that night, would anyone care? Would anyone even know what happened?" Her resilience inspired others to share their own stories of mistreatment at the hands of law enforcement. Women, minorities, and marginalized communities came forward, adding their voices to the growing chorus of calls for reform. Social media became a platform for collective healing, with hashtags like Tangang Stand with Maya and No More Silence trending nationwide. People posted videos, wrote essays, and held virtual discussions, creating a sense of solidarity that transcended geographical boundaries. Back in the town where it all began, the ripple effects continued to grow. Local businesses displayed signs supporting Maya, while schools hosted workshops on consent, respect, and civic responsibility. Even some members of the police force expressed discomfort with Greg and Ryan's actions, acknowledging that such behavior undermined trust between law enforcement and the community. As weeks turned into months, the investigation into the incident progressed slowly but steadily. Both officers were placed on administrative leave pending disciplinary action. Their lawyer argued that the prank was meant to be lighthearted and not malicious, but evidence, including the viral video, told a different story. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with Maya, leaving little room for leniency. Throughout it all, Maya stayed focused on her mission. She enrolled in community college courses, determined to educate herself further on issues of criminal justice reform. She also partnered with local organizations to launch a series of empowerment workshops aimed at teaching women and young girls how to assert themselves in difficult situations. Through role-playing exercises, self-defense classes, and open dialogues, Participants learned valuable skills that extended beyond physical safety. They gained confidence, resilience, and a renewed belief in their ability to stand up for themselves. 1. Particularly memorable workshop took place in the same alleyway where the incident occurred. Maya stood there, addressing a group of attendees who had gathered to hear her speak. "This is where it happened," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "But this is also where I found my strength. I want each of you to remember that, no matter how powerless you may feel in the moment, you have the power to reclaim your dignity. You have the power to say, 'Enough.'" Her message struck a chord with everyone present. Many left the workshop feeling inspired, vowing to carry Maya's lessons into their daily lives. For some, it was the first time they'd ever felt empowered to challenge injustice. For others, it reinforced their commitment to advocacy work, already underway. By the time autumn rolled around, the landscape of the town and perhaps the nation had shifted slightly. Conversations about police accountability and systemic inequality were happening more openly than ever before. Lawmakers introduced bills aimed at increasing oversight of law enforcement agencies, while grassroots movements gained traction in communities across the country. Though progress was slow, it was undeniable, and through it all, Maya remained a beacon of hope. She wasn't perfect. She still struggled with moments of doubt and fear, but she persevered. Her journey taught her that standing up for what's right isn't easy, but it's always worth it. By refusing to accept disrespect and choosing to fight back, she had sparked something powerful, a movement fueled by courage, unity, and the unwavering belief that change is possible. Though the road ahead promised challenges, Maya walked it with her head held high. She had proven that even in the face of adversity, one person's actions could inspire millions. And as she looked toward the future, she did so with optimism, knowing that every step forward brought her closer to the world she dreamed of, a world built on fairness, respect, and justice for all.